Good morning and welcome to Dixie Football Nation. I'm going to get you going here as we wait for the other guys to show up. As that comes blasting through. I don't know if y'all heard that. We tried going live a second ago, but YouTube's playing games, so I decided to kill the feed, and now we're back to coming back up again. So apologize if you started up with us a second ago, but I'm not going to play games with YouTube. If they play games with us, we're going to restart it. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into what is going on in the world of sports today. We're only going to do this really quick, and then we're going to get into our intro. I was planning for something a little more and a little faster, but that was or a little longer, excuse me, but that was thrown off by the games that YouTube was playing. All right, let's get into what happened in the world of tennis yesterday, as Djokovic is going to go to the finals. Long story short, he has a chance to do something someone hasn't done since 1969 in Rod Laver, where Rod Laver won the calendar Grand Slam, like the Tiger Slam that we used to talk about in golf. Well, Djokovic could be the first one ever, so you might want to tune into that. It's going to be hard to do, though, tennis fans. We are not that locked into tennis here in the United States, and the National Football League starts tomorrow. So good luck with those ratings. But anyways, until you move the U.S. Open off this weekend, it's always going to be an issue. All right, let's go ahead and get into what happened in the world of baseball yesterday. Now, there were a couple of football games of note. Duke rolled and Coastal Carolina rolled. That's essentially all you need to know. They both hit the team total overs, which I hit that parlay yesterday. So you like that, or at least I like that, right? All right, last night in Major League Baseball, Giants won. Mets squashed the Yankees 10-3. McGill looked incredible. Tigers rolled the Rays. Braves beat the Marlins 6-2. White Sox over the Red Sox. Red Sox are reeling, and they have that COVID issue going on. And then what else did we have? We had the Reds beating the Cardinals. Other games of interest as far as the playoffs are concerned: Blue Jays lost, Brewers won, Astros outlast the Angels. Ohtani got obliterated. He's still going to win the MVP, but he looked absolutely awful last night. Thanks a lot for my fantasy team, you jackass. And what else do we have here? We got the Kansas City Royals 6-4 winners over the Twins. That basically means nothing to nobody. The A's won, though. They get back up off the mat, as do the Mariners. They win, and the Dodgers, no shock to anyone, they blank the terrible Padres. Padres can beat up on the Pirates and et cetera, but when they've played the big boys, they have gotten they've gotten their butts kicked. There is no other word for it. All right, let's go ahead and get you set up with everything else that's going on in the world of sports, as we've got college football going on today. We're going to talk the lines today. We've got a lot of things coming at you, and the guys are going to be joining here very, very shortly, as I'm trying to set everything else up by myself, which is it's always like an absolute dumpster fire around here. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get you set. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring Tony in. And as we are doing that, we are going to get you set on the show at hand. So here we go with the armchair quarterbacks, Dixie Football Nation.
Hyperbole is done. Now we can finally play the game. It is the third Saturday in October, and the show is on one more time in Knoxville, Tennessee.
We are live in Tallahassee, the capital of the great state of Florida.
There's no law against scalping tickets in this part of the country, and premium prices have been paid. That's Desmond Howard going in motion on second down and 5 for Michigan, playing on real grass at Michigan Stadium. Throw it to the sideline. It is intercepted. Florida State was sitting and waiting for it, and Terrell Buckley has scored a touchdown. How do you do?
All right, here we go. 56-yarder. It's got, no, does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
They're still in deep trouble in midfield. They tackle him. The ball is still loose as they get it to Rodgers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. But the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heartrending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California.
In trouble in the backfield, wants to throw now, and he's going to go deep. And I mean deep, and I mean touchdown, Florida! Tyree Cleveland in a miracle finish. A Hail Mary that's full of grace for the Gators.
Barkley trying to bounce it. And does escape. Saquon Barkley in the clear. Still going. Saquon Barkley all the way to the end zone. Electric. 79 yards.
It's a 31-30 game, and what does Nebraska do?
I have not seen the kicker come on the field, and I don't think he's coming on the field. Tom Osborne made this decision a long time ago. He's decided to go for two and take his shot at winning. I commend him for it.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
And if in 48 seconds they become the winner, they certainly deserve to be national champions.
Here come the Seminoles of Florida State. One of the great traditions in college football. And this becoming one of the nation's favorite rivalries. It's a battle for flagging rights and recruiting advantages in the state of Florida as the Gators come calling and Chief Osceola ready to get it started. College football. A matchup from the state of Florida. It's the Gators against the Seminoles on an overcast day in Tallahassee.
Moody flush, throws it down. Caught by Boston College. I don't believe it.
Today, we've got #1 Seminoles against #2 Hurricanes. They meet in the capital city of Tallahassee.
Good morning and welcome to Dixie Football Nation. As we get these guys in here, let me see here. Here we go. Everyone was a few minutes late this morning, but that's okay. It happens on the first day. Good morning, Mr. Tony Aguilini. How are you?
I'm great, guys. How are you? Happy Saturday.
Good. Mr. Bobby, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Do I sound okay? Is the mic crackling or anything like that? I need people to let me know. Everything good?
Voice of an angel.
Sounds good over here.
All right, good. We've been having some issues with YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, before we get into anything else, the big news broke yesterday of the Big 12. Let me kill that music before y'all want to go eat some beans out on the trail. The big news broke yesterday about the Big 12, which is they are bringing in the Little Four to try to make the Big 12 whole. The biggest thing I like about this is the Big 12 is actually going to have 12 teams when it all settles, maybe, if others don't start dipping out. Tony, I'll start with you. What was your reaction?
I think, it's something they had to do. I was a little surprised to see BYU in there because for quite a while, BYU has kind of felt like they were the Notre Dame of the West. to try and stay independent for so long and try and have their own TV deal and that kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting. I thought UCF and Cincinnati were probably a given. I was a little, if it wasn't BYU, I thought Memphis or SMU would have both been okay fits there. SMU obviously gets you the Dallas market, which, is in that Big 12 footprint already. And then Memphis is kind of a natural fit for that area too, being in the West, as West in Tennessee as you can get headed to Arkansas. So I think it's, for my UCF friends, it's great for them. The only issue is, what happens, say, in the next year or so when they go to add like USF, which kind of, this is a big thing for UCF to try and stay a foot or two ahead of USF in the big picture. But I have a feeling they might add 2 more teams and we'll have the Big 14 before too long. But for now, it's good for UCF. And, they had to do something with Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC.
I still think they're going to lose a couple of teams, and then I agree with you. Then they're going to add some, because I still don't see West Virginia staying there long term. West Virginia feels like they should either be in the Southeastern Conference or more likely in the ACC, just because of where they are geographically, and they've got enough pull to get out of that conference. Because now this conference has turned into more of a basketball conference, and it's going to be. And I think West Virginia wants to have a little bit of a better footprint in the world of college football. You lose Texas and Oklahoma, and you bring in Houston and Central Florida, and nothing against them personally, but as far as like staying power with their football programs, I have questions about it. Now, Bobby, what was your take on it? You're living in Middle Tennessee. Were some Memphis fans kind of shocked that they didn't get the invite? What say you?
Not to my knowledge, no. I've interacted with a few UCF fans. They're very happy about it, though. Ultimately, I think. Say again? It cut off. Did you say something or no?
No.
Oh, okay. There must have been a mic problem.
I had a stroke and didn't realize it. Which is possible.
No, I think those additions to the Big 12, I think they're good. Undeniably, though, it makes the conference weaker as a whole, losing Oklahoma and Texas. But I like Cincinnati bringing them in. I like UCF. You saw them there, the self-proclaimed champions just a few years ago. So ultimately, I like those additions. But losing Texas and Oklahoma, though, those hurt big.
I think the biggest get was Cincinnati from unless you're talking about other sports, football, basketball, that's the biggest get to me across the board. Central Florida is interesting for them, and I think the biggest thing with that is it gives them the Florida market, right? But as far if we're talking about a program and what could be a game, because they already had the Texas market before they grabbed Houston. Now Houston, granted, is one of the top 3, top 5 television markets in all the country. But as far as getting the eyeballs on the Big 12, I think Texas already had that. And BYU, to me, that was one of the bigger gets from a football standpoint. But outside of that, they don't bring a lot to the table. I wasn't as shocked that BYU came. I was shocked that they were able to get them to come, because I thought BYU was headed to the Pac-12, to be honest with you. And I think it's a big mistake by the Pac-12 to let them get sniped by the Big 12. So anyways, I just wanted to touch on that. We don't have to spend the whole day on it. Obviously, this is 9/11, 20 years ago. I figured we'll start off today real quick. We won't go into a whole thing about it. But Bobby, you obviously weren't around, okay? Mm-hmm. But Tony, where were you on this day 20 years ago?
Jesus, how old's Bobby? So
Bobby is a freshman at Middle Tennessee State.
Okay. Well, awesome, man. Well, good luck.
And we're looking we're looking into who may or may not be his father, because Matt Carr keeps avoiding the questions.
So speaking of college, I had I actually went to UCF for my undergrad. And so I had 2 classes left. I was just taking those at night. I'd already landed a full-time job at a company called Aquin, which is a mortgage servicing company. And so anyway, I think my shift was from 8 to 4, 8 to 5, probably 8 to 5. And not my supervisor, but the supervisor for the team next to me came by and said, "Hey," and we were friends. He's like, "Hey man, you're not gonna believe this. A Cessna or something clipped the World Trade Center. And I was like, man, that's crazy. I said, keep me posted. And like, of course, 15 minutes later, he's like, you're not gonna believe this. The second plane hit. And then he had like a little portable TV that he drug out, and we were watching as much as we could. And I'm working in a call center, so I couldn't really abandon my desk all day, but went to the fraternity house at lunch, caught up as much as I could there, went back to work, and they let us out, I think, at like 4 or so, because we were making outbound calls for people that were less than 30 days late on their mortgages, collecting payments and stuff like that.
Oh, I bet that was a hell of a day to try to get.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We basically shut the outbound phones down, and if people wanted to call us, they could call us, but we weren't calling out looking for money. So, but yeah, I remember spending most of the night, watching it. I think we snuck out to Ale House just to kind of get some fresh air and, go somewhere where we could talk and, that kind of thing. So, just crazy times. But yeah, it's like everybody else. I think when you first kind of heard it, you thought, wow, that's kind of weird. And then the second plane hit, and then you knew something was up. I wasn't able to be glued to the TV all day, but we kind of were with the portable TV. But just crazy times, and the Pentagon, obviously, and then you hear about United 93, and lots of heroes that day, lots of sadness, lots of American pride in the next, days, months, years. And, you don't want to have something like that bring out American pride in everybody, but, maybe at that point in time, that's maybe what it took, I guess. But hopefully we can get back to that American pride bit at some point.
Yeah. I just hope
for everybody.
I just hope what's going on over there right now is not going to lead to another, day like that day. And unfortunately, I think it very well could, because of the policies that were put in place a few weeks ago. I was in Nashville. I've told the story before, so I won't go on and on about it, but I was in Nashville getting ready for work. We had a little store that we owned. I was actually, this is going to shock nobody, I was watching ESPN News, and that stuck out to me because, and this is back when ESPN News actually had news on it, not just like reruns of Marty and McGee or whatever the hell they put on there now. And now I feel like that they just need to rebrand and rename the ESPN News. But they used to, Bobby, sit down and let me tell you about a time where they used to put news on ESPN News. So you used to wake up in the morning and you would look forward to getting caught up in the world of sports in 30 minutes. They were 30-minute things. And I love that, because if I was watching a Braves game but didn't see the rest of the world, and back then the internet was there, but it wasn't as advanced as it is today. So you weren't keeping an eye on multiple things. That's how you kind of caught up with what happened in the world of sports, scores, etc. And I'm in the little, I just got out of the shower, and I'm watching, looking for scores. And I keep seeing it flashing. Turn over to ABC News for more information about the World Trade Center. And I flipped over, and just as I flipped over, they just panned up, and you could see the second plane going in. There was just a dead silence, because they had just been talking about the first plane. And, how could this happen? Could this happen? And when that second plane hit, the announcer said something about, this is not a mistake, y'all. We are under attack. It was something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I remember just being like in awe, and just like sat down, just kind of collapsed in my chair, just staring at the TV, like, what in the hell? And so the next thing was just be calling my dad and, asking him, say, well, what do you want to do about the story? Did you want to open it? Is that disrespectful? Like, what should we do? We ended up opening it. Then I had to give some guy the heave ho, because he was trying to tell me how, America had this coming kind of thing. And it was all I could do not to actually put my hands physically on him and choke him out. But I've told that story before, but kind of to your point, later on that evening, I remember going up there. There was a bar about 3 or 4 doors up from our store, and sitting down there and having beers with everybody. And you just kind of wanted to get out. You kind of wanted to talk to other people, because you wanted to get like their reaction on it. And it was also nice being in a room where we're all on the same side, right? And we're all just trying to figure out what in the hell. And of course, there was a lot of, a lot of words being thrown around, cursing and all that kind of stuff, and people talking big and what they would do and all that kind of stuff. But it was a really special moment as far as bonding goes with the American people I didn't know from Adam, we're all in there, you're basically bonded together over this one thing that was, it's Bobby. I hope your generation never sees it, but at the same token, because they've never seen it, I think it's why they have certain opinions on certain worldviews, and I'll just leave it at that. Until you go through that, you're like, there's only one team you really have to worry about every day. Now, I know we're all big sports fans, but there's only one team that really matters when it's all said and done, and that's the red, white, and blue that I've got behind me today because, we're all in this together. We were all Tony can tell you, man, the patriotism that came beaming out for the next several months was just unreal. I mean, you couldn't go down the street without seeing American flags flying off of cars and everything like that. But anyways, we will go ahead and transition. We're not going to make the whole show about this, but I did want to get the take to get it going this morning. Let's go ahead and get going here today as the Florida Gators. They are undefeated. They are heading to Tampa. And they're going to take on the mighty South Florida Bulls. And that's the best way I can build that to get y'all fired up.
Was that them?
For another game that, and by the way, South Florida, please quit texting me. I am not going to play offensive line this morning for you. Okay. It's not going to happen. But there's no way this game is competitive. No way. South Florida was absolutely trounced. I know Florida didn't look great in their first game, but I also feel like they're going to keep things close to the vest again this week because they do have Alabama coming in next week. And you know that as long as you keep one foot in front of the other, you beat South Florida. The line's 28.5. I think that's incredibly low. Bobby, we'll start with your take. What you don't know about this, Tony, is he is a Gator fan. He's grown up in Tennessee, but we have a Gator fan with us. So I'll let y'all run with this until next week. But Bobby, is this game competitive at all? Because I'm really tempted to take Florida minus the 28.5, and I think I'll have it covered by halftime.
No, I don't believe this will be competitive at all. And I think last week the score looked maybe a little bit closer than it should have because they got a couple of garbage time touchdowns. But overall, our defense looked phenomenal last week. Elam looked to be the cornerback we hoped he would. Zach Carter had a huge game. Our defense just looked great as a whole. And then Anthony Richardson, he came in and had a phenomenal game. So, no, I don't think it'll be very close. And honestly, I got my eyes set on Alabama next week. I'm not like saying we're going to win, but I'm a lot more looking forward to that game than I am USF.
All right, Tony. Forever the pessimist for University of Florida. Try to sell me on why the hell a Gator fan would even be remotely worried about this game.
I'm not. In fact, this is like, other than, your usual throwaway games, like if this was, in one of the other state schools, not FAU or FIU, but say it's UCF or somebody else, I would be a little bit concerned. But this USF team is even probably worse than they were last year. And last year they were awful. And understand, like, hardly anybody played. The only teams that played defense last year were in the Final Four. Everybody else kind of slacked off on defense last year. But and you've seen the defensive kind of come back in week one. Part of that too is the offense is being a little bit clunky, and I think that's kind of what happened to us on Saturday. I'm with Bobby where last week's score wasn't really as close as it looked. They had the two garbage touchdowns, and then we had some horrible red zone execution in the first half that kept it from being like 28-0. But these teams, it's funny, with the portal and everything. We're playing FAU last week. I'm like, oh yeah, N'Kosi Perry, I remember him, and the running back from USF that FAU had. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember him. And then USF's the same story. They've got the quarterback who's not very good. Cade Fortin, he was actually an A&M commit, and then he ended up in North Carolina, and then North Carolina got Sam Howell, so he transferred to USF. And then Jared Williams, who started against Florida for Miami a few years ago, he's one of their backups. They've got a freshman they really like. So I think maybe the future is okay for USF, at least in a couple years, if Jeff Long can last that long. But for this week, this team's really bad, and Florida really just needs to jump these guys, get up like 35-0 at halftime, something like that, and then just play the backups, play Richardson, avoid injuries, and start getting ready for Alabama next week.
To that point, let's say Florida does get up to 35-0. Let's say that's exactly the score at the half. How long does I almost called him Meyer? How long does Mullen leave his starters in, do you think?
I think on defense, I mean, there's enough experience on defense. Like a lot of the guys that left last year, like I said before, it's kind of like addition by subtraction with some of the guys. And I was eager to see some of the younger kids play. So I think like Torrance and Williams and some of those guys, I think they'll get more playing time. Zach Carter's playing in his hometown, but he doesn't need to be playing if it's a blowout. The defensive linemen that transferred from Auburn and Penn State, they've been in those programs for 4 years. So it's not like they're brand new to college football. So on defense, I wouldn't leave the starters in that long. On offense, I do want to see some rhythm between these quarterbacks and the receivers. We really didn't show much last week, like you said, and I don't think we'll show a lot this week, but at least give me some separation. Like let's get Justin Shorter in space for once. Let's get Copeland down the field. We took, I think, 2 shots downfield, and that was in the fourth quarter when FAU was gassed. So just stuff like that. Maybe stretch the field a little bit more without trying to show Alabama anything. But to be honest, like Alabama's got the best coaching staff on earth. It doesn't matter who's in that room with Saban. They're going to be ready for Florida. We can mask all we want. Like they know what's coming. They played us last year. It's not like they've never seen this. So I don't know. To me, like just let it hang out this week, blow them out, and go to Bama and save whatever dumb trick plays you think are going to work next week. Save that for that, but just run these guys up and down the field and let's get out of there.
All right. Moving on from that, in the SEC, a much bigger game. Pittsburgh is heading to Tennessee. They're going to take on the Volunteers. It's a noon kickoff, and the line right now is 3.5. Pittsburgh is favored at 3.5. From what I've seen, I don't know if I'm buying that Tennessee's going to hang in there. They their offense came out and looked pretty good the first couple of drives in their first game, but then they kind of stalled out, and Pittsburgh, I believe, is going to go in there ready to roll. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know if 3.5 points is enough. What say you, Bobby, on Pittsburgh at the Volunteers?
I don't think it'll be a 3.5 point game. Well, obviously, because there's no half points. But yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more than that. I think Tennessee's offense, like you said, it looks good at the beginning of the game. Then it kind of slowed down a bit. I do think Pittsburgh wins that one, though.
Tony, what say you on the Vols in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe Milton and Emory Jones kind of had similar games last week. They played well on the first couple drives, and after that kind of got out of a rhythm. So I think Jones will play better tomorrow or today. I think Milton will play better today as well. So I don't necessarily think he'll be the issue. I just think Tennessee is still, lacking in talent. Pickett is still at Pitt. So as long as he's not throwing interceptions like he kind of got in that habit last year, I think they'll be okay. I think Pitt goes in and wins. They'll play again next year. This is the whole Johnny Majors Classic deal. So, which is a cool thing in itself. But yeah, I think Pitt gets the win on the road. I think it's like a 27-23, that kind of game. I think it'll be a good game to watch. It'll be close. I don't know how. I can't vouch for what quality of football it'll be, but I think it'll be a fun game to watch.
The over-under sits at 56. Right now, it's being projected at basically Pittsburgh winning the game 30-27. I think Pittsburgh can score that many points. I don't know if Tennessee's going to be able to do that against that Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah.
And so that's my question, because Milton he just didn't impress me that much. Now, this is his morning to shine, and this is his morning to make me look like an idiot. But I'm all in. I actually took Pittsburgh this morning. I took them on the money line because you just never know. It's a road game, and when it's that low, I don't mind taking the money line. I think the money line at the time when I took it was like around a -150, something like that. But I just don't think the Volunteers are going to be able to hang in there and score because, Pickett has been there. I mean, this is like his 5th or 6th year at this point. And Milton's still trying to figure out where his Wednesday morning classes are, right? So at this point, I just feel like their firepower is going to be too much. You move on from that, South Carolina -2.5 at ECU. That's a tricky game. That's an interesting game. I did not get a chance to watch any South Carolina, but I do know that East Carolina can be that team that kind of bites people in the butt. do either one of y'all give East Carolina a legitimate shot of knocking off South Carolina today? I'll start with you.
Yeah, I do. I think that South Carolina score is a little bit inflated last week. They blocked a couple punts. They took advantage of playing an FCS team basically and just kind of outgunned them. And I don't know if you saw the story. They did it with a graduate assistant at quarterback. The guy took a job. He still had a year of eligibility left, I guess. He came in from North Dakota State as a grad assistant, and I guess they worked it out to where he was able to be added to the roster like the week of the game, basically. So he came in and did just fine, mostly handed it off and threw some touchdown passes in the red zone. But South Carolina, their strength is running the football. They got a room full of running backs, and if they can do that, control the clock, they should be fine. But I do give East Carolina a pretty good chance at home.
How did the coach play last week, by the way? Because I was in Nashville. I only got to see it.
Yeah.
Games.
So I guess when he took that graduate assistant job, like you're still in school, you have to take classes to be a grad assistant. You're going for a master's in something. And I guess they figured out he still had a year of eligibility left if he wanted to play, and they just brought him in and played. The starter, I guess, sprained his foot or something like that. He should be back by SEC play, but that was kind of crazy. Luckily, they were playing who they were playing, and a lousy FCS team, not even a good one. So they were able to win, and mostly won with special teams and defense last week, and he threw some short touchdowns. But I do give East Carolina a decent shot today if they can stop that South Carolina rushing attack.
Bobby, what say you?
I haven't watched too much South Carolina like you as well. I didn't watch them last week, but
that makes my eyes hurt every time I put a South Carolina game on. But
yeah, I understand. No, I think South Carolina should have a good shot to win that game. They do have a good rushing game. And yeah, I think they'll win that game, but the spread's pretty close, so I guess I could say Eastern Carolina has a shot.
I would assume that game's probably like on ESPN Plus or something like that. I haven't seen.
I think it's on ESPN too.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, It is a 12 p.m. Ooh, that just means that they don't have a lot to put on this morning. I mean, when you got Alabama State and Auburn on the SEC network, that kind of tells you where you're at on the early kickoffs. Mm-hmm. As far as the Tennessee, Pittsburgh, that's a great game. I'm looking forward to that one at noon. But as far as the Southern games, that's about it at noon. The rest of them, you have to be a diehard fan of your school to really care about that. Obviously, the big one we'll get into later, Oregon, Ohio State is at noon as well. Looking at the docket later on this afternoon, the SEC, A&M is a 17-point favorite at Colorado. I think that is a tricky game to be going on the road and giving up 17 points to a Colorado team that has been pretty respectable the last couple of years. A&M is really good, but we're going to find out if they can put up enough points to cover that 17. What say you, Mr. Tony?
This one's interesting. You don't see SEC teams playing at Colorado all that much. I know Georgia went up there somewhat recently. I think we're supposed to go up there in like 8 or 10 years or so if the schedules don't get overhauled. But they're playing this where the Broncos play, so I guess it's different than playing at Boulder. But you're still playing at the altitude and all that, so that's a big adjustment for A&M. So I like A&M to win the game. I think Colorado covers, though.
Bobby, what say you?
I think A&M will win as well. It is going to be a tough road game in that environment. And like you said, Colorado, they've had a good program over the last few years. They've been respectable. But I do think A&M, I think they're a much better team, and I think they'll win this game.
We got Angela joining us here in a minute. So I went ahead and that's why I killed the logo, so we don't have like 19 pictures everyone looking at. I just think that's a tricky game. What I really like in that game is the over-under. The over is 50, and that's a really good A&M defense. And I think they'll win comfortably, but I don't know if 50 is not very high for a college football game, granted. But I don't know if Colorado's going to be able to put up enough points for that 50 to actually get threatened. Especially that game's going to be going on. That game kicks off around 1:30 local time. That's pretty early for college kids. And we all know the Boulder is a hell of a party school. So the A&M boys might have been out late last night. They might be waking up right now. You've got to get out of my room. Jimbo's going to be coming by, and this ain't going to turn out well for anybody.
And they're in Colorado, so you never know.
Exactly. NC State's at Mississippi State. Real quick, Bobby, give me a score in that one. It's a 1-point favorite. NC State's a 1-point favorite. It's a 7:00 kickoff, and the over/under is 55.5. Give me a score real quick.
I'll say 24-28 Mississippi State.
Tony, what say you on this game?
I kind of like NC State going into Starkville and getting a win. I think they're pretty good, even though they blew out USF, which everybody's going to do this year probably. I think they're pretty loaded, at least as loaded as NC State can get. So that said, I don't think Mississippi State's that good. I think Leach is a fun story because he's a funny guy in press conferences, but I think he gets a lot of he's got a great offensive mind, but as far as being a head football coach, CEO of a program, I think he's overrated. And I wasn't that surprised to see them get everything they got last week from who they played. So that big comeback, I think, might have worn him out. I think NC State will probably go in there and sneak out a win by a touchdown or so, something like 34-27, something like that.
Welcoming on to the show is Mr. Angelo. Angelo, how are you on this fine college football morning?
I'm good. Ready to go.
And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Bobby, you will notice Angelo always has his Christmas lights up behind him, whether it's September or if we're doing a baseball show in April.
It's never too early for Christmas lights.
I know that's right. We can transition a little bit and go over to well, you know what? One more big game that I want to hit now, and we'll hit a couple of SEC games later. Would be the Texas-Arkansas game. Texas, a 7-point favorite at Arkansas. It's a renewed rivalry from the old Southwest Conference. Tony, what say you on this game?
I really want to pick Arkansas to win this game, not because I
hope they do.
I do too.
I'm not an SEC fan, but man, to see Sarkisian squirm after just a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, and I picked Napier and his squad to beat Texas last week, and Texas pulled it out. I think Texas will win. I think Arkansas will give them a really good game. Hopefully Arkansas can pull it out. But yeah, this is going to be like a 44-30 kind of game. It's going to be tough for Pittman to win at Arkansas, but I think he's the right coach with the right mentality there. I think they don't want to spread the field. They want to be able to. He's an offensive line guy, so they want to be able to run as much as possible. So I think that's the recipe to win. At a school like Arkansas, they're just maybe a couple years away.
How many times do you think Belima sits there now in Illinois after his stint in Arkansas going, dude, I was at Wisconsin. What the hell did I do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The hell? Whoever his life coach,
awful.
I really hope he fired his life coach because that was just a terrible decision. Yeah. Angelo, what say you on Texas, Arkansas? Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that the trendy pick is to pick Arkansas, whether to cover or win outright, especially playing at home under the lights. I like Texas, though. I think it'll be close in the first half. I would assume Texas will pull away second half. I think they'll win pretty handily, too, maybe something like 31-10, 31-17, around there.
Bobby, what say you?
I think Texas will win by a fair margin. I think it'll be about double digits, about 10 to 14 points. And yeah, I think Texas will come away with that one on the road.
I like Texas to win, but Arkansas winning would not shock me at all. I think the over-under is a little low. It's 56.5. I honestly think this is going to be a shootout. I haven't seen anything that really scares me on either side of those defenses. I can remember a couple of games last year where Arkansas really let the floodgates open on a couple of offenses. And Texas is 2-3 years away from being that type of offense that could, consistently hang 40. But I think this is going to be a really high scoring game. It should be a fun game too. I do like Texas to hold on, but I don't feel comfortable giving up the 7. Not saying that I would necessarily take Arkansas plus 7, but I just think that is when you're a road team in a game like that, that's going to have a lot of flair to it. I just have a lot of questions if they can actually cover that spread. We'll circle back to a couple SEC games here in a little bit, but the Florida State Seminoles, Angelo, big time Seminole fan, as am I. They're going to be on TV. I'm not sure why, but they're going to be playing Jacksonville State. Now, last year, Jacksonville State scared the hell out of us, but that was right at the very beginning of the Norvell experiment we're doing right now. Hopefully it's the Norville era, but he's going to have to win some games before I can call it an era. You got to figure Milton and company ought to be able to name their score against the Jacksonville State team. And I'm curious to see how much time that they put Milton out there, considering they got a lot of big games going down the road. And I know they're worried about him getting banged up or whatever, but at some point you got to let this guy play because he's either going to be durable or he's not. And the one fluke injury that he had, you can't just wrap him in bubble wrap, the entire season. So what are you looking at in this game, Angelo, as far as Florida State, Jacksonville State? It is actually on ACC network. So that tells you that they are struggling for some games at 8:00 at night. I assumed this thing was going to be on the Plus or PBS or something. I was shocked when I found out that it was on ACC network. What say you, Angela?
Obviously when people ask Florida State fans tonight, what do they want? Obviously they're going to say a big win, right? But I think you have to look even more specifically into the little details. Something I think that hurt us against Notre Dame was the snaps. There was a couple snaps that were off. I think we need to get some turnovers as well. I don't think there were any turnovers against Notre Dame, and there was a couple times that the ball was on the ground. Their quarterback recovered twice, 2 fumbles. So I think defense played well. The defensive line got to the quarterback a lot. They didn't look overmatched, which was good compared to last year. But I want to see more. I want to see the DBs getting some interceptions, defensive line forcing some fumbles, whoever it is. And offensively, I mean, I think you got to go Milton as a starter. I think Jordan Travis, as we talk about over Twitter, is a good quarterback for specific options and packages. But Milton is going to be your guy, I think, to win games down the road. Hopefully we get out to a big lead. Then you could rest him. You could bring in Chuba or even Jordan Travis to get some work in. But I think we'll be fine. I don't know if we've turned the corner yet, but a game like this against the Jacksonville State team that just lost by 31 against UAB, this is going to be a game that we need to come out and definitely cover the spread.
It better not be a game that they struggle with. That's all I'm saying. If you go out there and you struggle against them, the fan base is going to lose their mind. And I'm going to tell you something else. And I know I was getting a lot of fight back a week ago. Now everyone's kind of realized, oh, maybe he was right. Jordan Travis is what he is. He's not a starter on a Power 5 school that is going to compete for anything. He is a backup that you can run gadget plays with. So if Florida State does get out to a big lead with Milton, I say don't even put Travis out there because A, you want him healthy, right? And B, let's see what Chuba Purdy has in company to build on the future, because we know what Jordan Travis is. He hasn't changed from one damn bit from 3 seasons ago when he hit the scene. He's going to try to run around, chuck it about 7 or 8 yards sideways. Every once in a while, get lucky and hit one deep. But the defenses know that they can come up on Jordan Travis. That's why it's always so hard to move the ball when he's playing quarterback. Keep him healthy, but I'm all for putting him in gadget plays and giving your opponent something else that they have to work on, because you have such a limited amount of practice each week. But if he gets injured, let's say Milton gets injured, I'd much rather see what Purdy's got going on than Travis doing the same old. I mean, Travis is just James Blackman 2.0 is all he is. He's a guy that's a little better under center because of his legs, but he's not that much better for a passer. Another thing is Jordan Travis, I like him as a person, but he's not a starter at you name another major college football program where you'd say, yeah, man, that guy would be starting there. He would.
I don't know if I'd put him on the same level as Blackman. I think that Travis has.
You're in denial.
I think he's gotten better in terms of his arm strength this year. But as you were saying earlier, you listed him as a running quarterback, and I think that's an obvious. But I mean, for him to only have 9 rushing yards, and I know sacks take away from yards, but right, if you're labeled as a running quarterback, right, you got to get more than 9 yards on 12 attempts. And when Milton came in,
totally off subject, by the way. Go ahead.
I was gonna say when Milton came in, he didn't look. He looked fleet of foot too. He didn't look that slow. He looked nimble. I wouldn't want him running as much, but he looked solid on the
That's
ground.
The thing is it like when they did the quarterback keeper at the goal line. That's a perfect Travis play.
Right.
Do that on short yardage. Period. It doesn't have to be at the goal line. But when you have a situation where it's 3rd and 10, that's not the guy you want in there. And I'd rather see what Purdy has than what, because look, eventually you just got to realize that guy's a backup and you've got to figure out who the starter is if something were to happen to Milton. Mm-hmm. This is totally off subject, but I just saw a clip last night, Baltimore-Toronto baseball game. Anyone see this? The Toronto runner was heading towards home plate and he there's no other word for it. He got checked like a hockey player in the chest by I believe the Baltimore pitcher. And then he got up and didn't look like he had much of a reaction to it. Did anyone else see this?
I didn't know.
It's really strange. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I saw it was like that crazy play. It was a ground ball to short, runner on second base, runner on second, went to third. The fielder threw it to third. It was in the dirt, got by him, threw it home. The pitcher looked like he was running to cover to back up home plate.
But he did this number. And I'm surprised the guy didn't get up and slug him.
Did you see what happened with the coach earlier that game, though? How the
no. Like I said, it's just a clip I see in the background.
The Baltimore coach, I don't know if it's pitching coach or the head coach, he was getting at the Toronto Blue Jays pitcher, Robbie Ray.
That makes me wonder even more. I mean, because they show him later walk toward the dugout. He's kind of like, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, them's fighting words. Taking a body check. Anyways, we'll move on. Give me a score for the FSU game.
Man, Florida State scarred me so much from picking them into winning blowout games the last couple of years. So I'll go 49-17.
I'll be disappointed if it's not like 55-7. If they give up 17 points, I'm going to be pissed because
it could be the second half.
That defense looked very, very. It better not be a sweat show like it was against Jacksonville State last year. That's all I got to say. All right, let's move on from that. You do have other games in the ACC today of note. Not many, but Miami App State. That's an important one for the Hurricanes. They're an 8-point favorite. Bobby, what say you? Will the Hurricanes blow them out, or are they going to be hanging on for dear life at the end?
No, and I actually will be talking about the game a little bit later for certain reasons, I think you know. But no, Appalachian State, I mean, they're known for being a team that could pull off an upset, and Miami's coming off a pretty ugly loss against Alabama. So I certainly think Miami needs to be on their heels in this one. They can't be, taking this game lightly. And I think Appalachian State has a good chance to win. I think Miami will win, but I think it'll be a lot closer than expected.
Tony, what say you?
It's funny. I was good to see you, Angelo. I was talking about like looking at USF's quarterbacks. Like I remember that guy from this and this guy from that. And so sure enough, the quarterback for Appalachian State is Chase Bryce, who was at Clemson and then transferred to Duke. And now he's at App State. So, the world's a circle. I'm with Bobby. I think App State can really straight up win this game. If Miami, has that giant hangover from last week and all that. So it's one of those, what we were saying yesterday, like if Miami's really back, then they handle business. If they're not, this goes down to the wire and either they sneak out a win or App State goes down there and gets the upstate. App State really didn't have any problems with East Carolina last week. So I think they're ready to roll. So we'll see. Obviously I'm hoping that App State pulls off the win. That'd be great. So, we'll see. But I think it is an underrated game of the weekend.
I think it is too. I think that I think it's a game that Miami should go out and dominate, but the history of Appalachian State would make me very nervous taking Miami minus 8. Miami should go out there. If they're supposed to be what Miami's supposed to be, they should go out there and roll them, especially after looking terrible at Alabama. You would think that they would be motivated, that they would be. I think they're going to try to get Derek King's legs involved more in this game than they have in others. And I expect Miami to go out there and score some points, but we're going to find out how good that Miami defense is. And Appalachian State, we all know the last few years, they've actually been a really good, solid program. They don't just have the 07 Michigan Wolverine upset to hang on to. Appalachian State has been a very good program.
Yeah.
So this game scares me. I'm not touching it one way or the other.
Miami's got Michigan State next week on deck, by the way. So this is a little bit of a sandwich game for them too.
That's true too. And Michigan State looks to be a little better than everyone expected them to be. If I was to guess, I think Miami's going to win this game like 35-28. And that's just, it's the 8 points is. And by the way, this line has dropped almost 2 points over the last 48 hours, I believe. So that tells you right there that the betting public believes that Appalachian State can pull the upset. Now, sometimes when that happens, the public's wrong and Miami wins by 27.
If Diaz's defense looks like total crap again, because Alabama's going to make a lot of teams look like crap this year, probably one next week. But if that happens again, there's giant question marks down in Miami.
They'll be ready to put
defense.
They will be ready to chase him down. I mean, if he loses to Appalachian State, starts the season, or even if it's a nail biter and they win, but it's high scoring, like you say, they're going to be like, "What is he doing here?" Right? So to me, that's a huge game. Angelo, do you see Miami?
What's funny is you touched on every one of the points I was going to say. This isn't the Appalachian State of 07 beating Michigan. They're not going to be sneaking up on teams. They're a good football program. So I don't think they're going to be sneaking up on Miami. I think Miami will be prepared, and I think Miami does, in fact, roll them. Now, I'm not going to say Miami's back, but this is going to be a game that I think that they'll be prepared for. They know that people are going to be taking App State. People are going to be talking about Appalachian State to pull off the upset. So if they lose it, I don't think it's going to be because they weren't prepared or they weren't up for the game.
Sometimes when they say it too much and they're like, "Look out, man, this is the underdog game. This is the underdog game." That gets the antennas up of the favorite, and they go, "Let's go out there and mash their ass and just show them what's up." Welcoming on to the show for the first time in a long while, Mr. Penn State, Tones Ariola. How the hell are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me. It feels great to be back with the Armchair Quarterbacks. Another day in the land of Big Ten football. Not a great slate for the Big Ten today, but we definitely do have a couple games to keep our eye on, especially Oregon against Ohio State. That should be a good one. Other than that, no crazy matchups, but feels good to be talking football again with the boys.
Now, that brings us to our next segment, kind of brings us in here. If people didn't watch us last show, they don't know what this is. It's a stupid underdog picks. Okay. And I used to have the sound bite, but I don't do that anymore because YouTube will flip out. But back then we were on YouTube. YouTube would flip out because we definitely don't own that song. So anyways, imagine in your head the cartoon underdog singing as we enter this segment. So here are the simple rules. They're fun to follow, play along at home, whatever. If you want to put your predictions in, feel free to do so too, and we'll kind of try to keep up with the John Q. Public's picks throughout the year. The simple rules are this: we take an underdog that is on the slate out in Vegas to win outright. So, for instance, we were just talking about Appalachian State and Miami. If you take Appalachian State to win outright, and they're an 8-point underdog right now, and they win the game, they have to physically win the game on the scoreboard, you would get 8 points. Okay. If you do not cover the spread and you're wrong on this, you get -2. If you do cover the spread, you will get a +2. So there's an advantage to not going out there and just swinging for the fences. Take someone who's 56 points under, right? Now we're going to add one more caveat to it this year to make it even more interesting. When you look at the spread, if you are wrong about the spread and they don't cover in a big way, meaning over 10 points. So for instance, if they were to lose if Appalachian State doesn't cover the spread and they lose by 20, and they were an 8-point underdog, you're now going to be -5. And if you do cover the spread, and depending on the point variations, and I'll have to put it up later, you might get more than 2 points. It's too detailed to be able to lay it out, but I'll put it up later for everyone to.
Was this a math word problem over here?
Yeah, we need to just start at 8 o'clock to get this in.
Oh my God. Come on, man.
So anyways, that's the gist of it. Maybe we'll just keep it the same because I don't think it's getting.
Guess I'm not picking Eastern Kentucky anymore.
Well, I almost want to call this the Tony Aguilini rule because you're always out there trying to find the 57-point underdog. But anyways, that's maybe we'll just keep it the same because it doesn't seem like it's getting good feedback. But anyways, the -2 +2 will stay the same as last year. I don't feel like I have very strong math scholars here with me, so I'll back off the advanced rules. All right, Tones Areola, it's the first time you have played. We're going to give you the first pick. Who are you going with for your stupid underdog pick today?
All righty, fellas. I'm going with I'm sticking with Big Ten theme here. I'm going with Idaho plus 30.5 at Indiana. Indiana did not play a good game last weekend. They were ranked to begin the year, which many fans are happy about. But Idaho, although it was against a Division II opponent, they won 68-0 last week, and their ground game actually looked really good, and they're getting 30.5 points on the road this week. I just think Idaho covers for sure here, and I think they actually keep this game close till halftime, 3 quarters through. I do think Indiana ultimately may end up pulling away by a touchdown or 2, but Idaho plus 30.5. I like their chance at upset potential today. I like a few others as well, but those aren't as much balls to the wall picks as this one is. I'm going all in here. I'm going Idaho plus 30.5, and I'm confident with that today.
Yeah, that is definitely a ripper, man. If you pull that one off the board, we're all going to be chasing you. Bobby, you are new to this, so we'll let you go number 2. Now, normally going in the weeks forward, the team that has the lowest score is going to pick first. So whoever's leading will pick last. That way we try to keep it competitive all year long. Bobby, who are you going for your stupid underdog pick? I think you kind of alluded to it, but where are you going?
I mentioned it. They're one of my 3 teams that I had written down, but I'm going to change it up here. Okay. I'm going to go with Buffalo, Nebraska. I don't really like Scott Frost's team. He hasn't proven to me that he's been great at Nebraska so far. And Buffalo last week, they had 569 yards of offense. I think this could be a high-scoring game, and I think they have a chance to pull off the upset. They're a 14-point underdog. 14,
okay. That was going to be my next question. What time is that game?
That's at 2:30 Central.
Yeah, I see. Now, that's one of those games I jot down in case we bring it up on my other page, but I don't have any, details. We weren't going to do a big Buffalo Bulls versus Cornhuskers dive this morning. All right. So, Angelo, who do you have?
I'm sorry, who did Bobby take a cut off?
He took the Buffalo Bulls against Nebraska.
See, that's what threw me off because I'm going to take the Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take Colorado over A&M. It's 17. They're 17-point dogs at home.
Right.
Up at Mile High.
I like that one. I think you're all stealing them from Tony. So let's see where Tony goes with his picks.
UConn.
He's going to get – I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to go South Florida. That way, if I win, I lose.
I don't have America's Sweetheart this year with UT San Antonio.
I thought about them last week, UTSA. Did they end up covering that game? They were a 5-point dog, and we didn't do the show last week, but they were doing the pregame. I was like, America's Sweetheart, man. They were talking
the best. I am super tempted to take UAB with Georgia. I think UAB is better than people think, and Georgia without JT Daniels, it sounds like today. It sounds like Jacksonville's own Carson Beck might start for them, or they'll start the poor kid that played against us last year. But I'm gonna go with everybody's other favorite, Middle Tennessee State. I think Virginia Tech upsetting UNC and then dropping a game to Middle Tennessee State is textbook.
Tony, you're not taking UAB?
No, I was tempted to.
I'm over here writing it down. All
Sorry.
right, man. Quit tricking me. All right.
I'm taking Middle Tennessee. I think, Tech coming off the big win, their trademark is the blow one right after they get a big win, and everybody's kind of on their jock a little bit. So I'm going to take Middle Tennessee in my stupid underdog pick.
Okay. I'm going to go with the one. I'm a little surprised that I went last and it was still available. I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks. It is now up to 15 this morning.
Wow.
This team, I get it that Ohio State is Ohio State. This Oregon Ducks team is supposed to be loaded. They're coming back with a lot of starters, and they didn't look good in week 1. But I'm hoping that was just rust or whatever it is, and I'm hoping this is a good game. I'm all in on this game because outside of here for reals, I've put some skin in this game. I took Oregon at the time. It was 14.5. I'm shocked that the line is this big. I guess maybe there just isn't much of a respect factor. They keep flashing up the fact that Oregon's 0-9 versus Ohio State all time. Like, well, when were these games played? Like the majority of them, because Oregon hasn't had a football program till about 20 years ago.
Right. When Artis Gilmore was running the ball for.
Exactly. I mean, was this like the days of like Archie Griffith versus Dan Fouts? I mean, like, what are we talking about? You don't go with all time. You don't go all time in any sport, but you damn sure can't do it with college football because it changes so much. So those are our stupid underdog picks. And like I said, if you want to play along at home, you can go ahead and put it into our YouTube feed, and I will keep up with yours as well. All right. Moving on from that, before we take a really quick break, because I know Angelo has got to jam. Angelo, give me your, outside of what we just talked about with the stupid underdog picks, give me the one big thing that's going to happen today for you in the world of college football. The one big thing that people are going to be talking about tomorrow. We're going, whoa, can't believe this happened. What's the one big thing?
I mean, I was tempted to take Oregon too. That was a close one for me. So I mean, I could see Oregon beating Ohio State in Columbus. I mean, they're looking at the other games. I mean, you have the Iowa game. I think that's gonna be a big game. Besides that, there's not many upsets I possibly see besides the ones that we all talked about. So I'll stick back to your pick, and I'll say that Oregon upsets Ohio State.
Okay. And we'll all be doing a one big thing to walk off the show here in a little while. So guys, keep that in mind. Angelo, what's your walk off for the day, sir?
I'm going to switch gears and say, what the hell is happening to the New York Yankees? That's what I'm going to say.
I was waiting for that.
7 in a row. Anyways, I think tonight.
It's because you quit showing up on our Monday morning baseball show. Ever since then, man, they ain't even been able to win a game.
Yeah, I'll be in class and I'll do it next week.
Do it live, man. Just
I think
get all the kids involved.
I think tonight's game will be pretty cool to see. They're doing a big thing for it for the 20th anniversary, obviously.
I noticed that it's starting like an hour later than normal, so I'm excited. I'm gonna be watching college football, but I'll be dialed into that.
Right. So, but hopefully Kluber can end the bleeding and start a new win. I mean, what, there's 17 games left. They're one game out of the first place in the wild card, half a game up of Toronto. So these last 17 games, I don't know what's going to happen, especially with Cole not guaranteed wins those three of the 17 games. So it'll be interesting to see.
They've got a big series with Toronto on that last week of the season. That thing is going to be huge now. All right, brother, we will see you next Saturday. Go Noles.
Go Noles.
We'll be back in a flash here on the Armchair Quarterback's going to reset a little bit. We're going to hit all the big games. We'll be back in flash with all the guys. Keep it locked in here on the YouTube Armchair Quarterbacks.
Ready to go?
All set. I can't believe we're going dancing.
You don't go that often?
No, because it's so stupid. Shall we?
It's important to remember the value of taking time for ourselves to do the things that help us grow and explore, like learning something new. And now with the Great Courses Plus, it's never been easier to experience the joys of learning. The Great Courses Plus offers thousands of streaming videos that cover hundreds of fascinating topics, from World War II to choosing the perfect wine. You can even take a course on the U.S. government or dealing with stress and anxiety. And because the Great Courses Plus partners with world-class professors and experts, you're always receiving thoroughly vetted, high-quality content from every lecture. Plus, you can watch or listen anytime, anywhere with the Great Courses Plus app. So take a little time for you. Sign up for the Great Courses Plus today for a free month of unlimited access. Visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/radio to get started. That's thegreatcoursesplus.com/radio.
My favorite comedians, I'm excited to talk to you.
Well, I'm excited to be here. These chairs are horrific. This is designed for I don't know what age. It's not like 6 to 8, like when you're 11. This is like the perfect size. It's not quite adult size. It's not kid size. I already slouch. It's going to be a bad interview, dude, and I'm blaming the chair.
You've never really written on a sitcom before. If you go through your credits, you hadn't really been on a show before.
Why'd you have to bring that up? Just right out of the gate, he goes negative. There was all these other nice things on your IMDb page I could have brought up, but I noticed this one glaring thing that you've never done, and right out of the gate. Was it because I made fun of the chairs? I'm sorry. Me out to the ball game.
Get caught up with the big stories from around the world in sports in just a few minutes. It's Take Me Out to the Ball Game today, weekdays. Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube. Baseball, football, basketball, whatever's trending in the world of sports, it's on Take Me Out to the Ball Game today in just a few minutes. It drops weekdays. Take Me Out to the Ball Game today on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. Take me out to the ball game. The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live. We're covering the NBA playoffs until we have a winner. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by our mystery sponsor, a product that is so good that they're paying us to keep anyone from associating it with this program.
Hey, what we always call on the game, PlayStation game, what we always call? Heads or tail on the PlayStation game.
Tail.
All right, then. You should have told him tail.
I thought you told him.
No, I told you.
I thought you knew the special teams always coach.
They don't play the PlayStation like us. They don't play it like us.
I thought you told him. That's why I said
They don't play the PlayStation like us. They don't play it like us.
Why did John Lennon have to be the one to get shot? Something's wrong. While these douchebags are all still alive, singing these clicking songs.
Think I have caught a whiff of doubt. She always seems to find me out.
Good morning. Welcome back here to the Armchair Quarterbacks, Dixie Football Nation. A little bit of a Big Ten twist this year as Tones Areola is going to be joining us, I guess, second half of the show every week. And we're going to be talking a little more Big Ten. Then, of course, the national picture on as we get rolling here. Now, look, this isn't a huge day in college football, but I think it's big enough for the second week of the season. You got the Oregon-Ohio State game. I know a lot of our viewers and listeners are more Southern-based, but that's a fun game because if Ohio State gets beaten, Oregon upsets the apple cart. Look out! That would be a topsy-turvy day in the world of college football just in that game. But you know, there's always one or two upsets, so I never sleep on any of these weeks. And I think Oregon at Ohio State is huge. And of course, we also got Iowa at Iowa State, and Iowa looked phenomenal in their first game. A game where I thought it was just going to be a matter of fact around 3 or 4 weeks ago that Iowa State would cruise in this win. Now I'm starting to wonder, and I'm a little surprised no one took the Iowa game as their underdog. But then again, you weren't going to get many points for it. So considering the rules of the game, I kind of get that. So, Tones, let's start off with you. What do you think about that Iowa State game?
I think it's very intriguing, and I actually had that as one of the games on my list of potential takes in the underdog contest. And Iowa is one of the teams that played really good last week, obviously, with the big week 1 victory, and they made it look easy. The Big Ten this year is stacked, and Iowa moved all the way up to number 10 in the rankings. They actually jumped ahead of Penn State, even though Penn State had a nice win against Wisconsin last week. But I actually like Iowa in this one. I have a little bit of a upset money line parlay going on. I got Iowa and New Mexico State money line parlay. Both rivalry games. Iowa's playing Iowa State, New Mexico State's playing New Mexico. But if we're looking at Iowa, just peer up here, they looked really good last week in terms. It almost looked like a professional team. They beat Indiana 34-6, and a lot of Indiana fans specifically were mad. Iowa's ground game was pretty fierce, as Goodson and Kelly Martin had a good ground attack, both average over 5.2 yards a carry in that one. They got a couple of rushing touchdowns, but the big story to me was Iowa's defense. We'll look to see if they could bring the noise again against a tough Iowa State team. And like you said, people a few short weeks ago just thought this game might be a blowout in terms of Iowa State. But now today, going into this game, that's not so certain. Iowa, 28-point winners last week over a ranked Indiana team. We'll see if they could bring the noise this week in a big rivalry game at Iowa State.
What's your prediction?
I think Iowa wins. I do think Iowa wins this one, and I think it's a close game, but I love the way Big Ten football style adapts to these big games. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play good defense. They're going to bring the noise. They know what's on the lines today. It's a big deal for them. Not saying it's likely at all their path to victory or even competing in the Big Ten. But if they do want to be serious competitors down the line, they obviously need to win this one. And back-to-back wins, back-to-back weeks over ranked opponents, Iowa would be really, really talked about heading into week 3 of the college football season. So I got Iowa winning by a field goal in this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think it'll be, 28-25 ball game in that neighborhood.
I find it very strange that the over-under is 46 in this game. That is really low for a college football game.
Correct. And that just goes to show, too, it could have something to do with, just that Big Ten presence and how they are a little more low scoring. They're a little more low scoring in the Big Ten besides the Ohio States that we see all the time.
Big 12. I mean, not only do they put up points, they try not to get in your way either. There's Olay defense. Go on,
correct.
Go ahead and score because we're going to get the ball back. And it's a Heisman Trophy candidate. I really like the over in this game. Tony, what say you on the Hawkeyes and Cyclones?
I think I like Iowa in this game too. I wasn't shocked Iowa won the game last week, but I was shocked that they absolutely just destroyed Indiana
right
on Saturday. It is in Ames. Iowa's won, I think, 4 or 5 straight against Iowa State, but I think having game day there and all that stuff, I think that's a bigger distraction for the home team than it is the away team. And I think Iowa's brand of football, especially with this year's team, travels well. So I'm with Tones. I think you'll see Iowa win. I think it'll be a fun game, close game. I'm looking for, as soon as the Gator game and the Oregon or Ohio State games are over with, I'll flip it to this one. And but I think Iowa wins by a field goal or a touchdown. I think it's one of those type games. Both teams in the 20s or so.
If you're going to flip over there after the Gator game is over with, you're going to be about 2 hours early. That's going to be over shortly after kickoff. Bobby, what say you in this game?
I'm going to take the other team with this. I'm going to take Iowa State. I like that they have the home advantage in this game. Iowa's defense looks good, but I think Brock Purdy and Breece Hall, they'll have a better game this week. I think they'll get the win at home, but I do think it'll be a very close game.
I'm with you. I like Iowa State to win. I don't know if I would touch the spread. 4.5 is a little too rich for my blood because I feel like this is going to be a field goal game. But I'm all in on the over under. I don't understand how that game's going to be. I mean, maybe I'm totally off, but not only do I think Iowa State's going to put up points, Iowa's going to put up points. And so it's something stinks. It's almost too good to be true. And those always make me nervous. When you see a number like that, you're like, why is it that low? It seems really, really strange. Illinois travels to Virginia and they're a 10.5-point underdog. And I kind of expected someone to pick them on the stupid underdog picks. And that was my second one I was going to be wheeled in with. Illinois, this is a team that got a big win in week 1. And I think people have forgotten that. And then Virginia, this is a rebuild team. This isn't a Virginia team that brought everybody back. And even the last couple of years, Virginia, when they won, they didn't win by much. I really like Illinois plus the 10.5 today. Tones, what say you?
Sadly, given Illinois' rules, I can't touch this game, unfortunately. But if I were able to, I would definitely like the Illinois plus 10 here. I mean, you're getting 10 points on the road, like you said. Virginia, they're a newer squad here assembled. Illinois had a big opening week victory, but I will say last week, not so much. They did get upset at home against UTSA. So now they're heading into this 1-1. We'll see what happens. That's kind of the ride we wave with Illinois. They have a big week one week, and then they let us down the next week. Not that I'm a U of I guy. I'm just a Big Ten guy. But I would look for U of I to cover here. I don't know if they're going to do enough to win this ball game. I actually have a friend who's a season ticket holder, diehard U of I fan. He was on top of the world after week one. Now, not so much. He expects this one to be a close game, but he doesn't see U of I coming out on top. I could see U of I giving them all they could handle on the road. U of I is one of those teams, especially the past couple of seasons, who have been prone to some road upsets here and there. And I think, this one will be a tight game, but I got Virginia winning by a touchdown.
Here's another strange number. It's 11 a.m. game, which means they always start sluggish normally, right?
Correct.
And that's 11 a.m. Eastern, y'all. That's not 11 a.m. Central. It's 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, so that means U of I is starting slow.
Right. Over under is 56. And these are two teams that don't exactly air it out. You're not going to confuse the Illinois-Virginia game with, a Texas Tech Red Raider game from the late 2000s. That seems like a really high number. Maybe I'm missing something there, but I'm starting to really lean towards that. Going back into the SEC, Tony, one of the games that I'm most intrigued about today is Missouri plus 5.5 at Kentucky, the over under 56. Kentucky looks like that they are not the same Kentucky that they have been in years past last week. Looks like they're going to air the ball out. What say you on this game, and what number do you like?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it too. I'm excited it's at night because I'll definitely tune in, at least on one of the TVs. I think I was really impressed with Levis with Kentucky. I was a little surprised that, Tones probably knows a little bit more about him as far as his history or whatever. I know he was a Penn State guy at one point. I was really impressed with him. I know who they're playing, but still, it's been a while since we've seen a Kentucky quarterback throw a deep ball like he did. His delivery is super smooth, has good pocket presence. He hasn't really been under stress yet, and he will against Missouri. I think I like Kentucky at home, but it's a big game. It's, you have Florida and Georgia, obviously 1 and 2 in the SEC East, we think. And then 3 and 4 seems to be a battle between Missouri and Kentucky. So the winner of this game is in a good spot. I like Drinkowitz a lot as the coach of Missouri. I don't necessarily think he'll be able to thrive at that program, but I think if he took over, say, at like Auburn one day or something like that, I think he'd be pretty good. But I do like Kentucky at home. I think as long as they don't do anything dumb like they tend to do in these big games where they, leave a receiver uncovered or get caught with too many men on the field or miss a field goal, something like that. But I'll go Kentucky 31-28 against Missouri. I do think it's a fun game.
Bobby, what say you on a pretty interesting SEC tilt?
Yeah, I think this is a good game as well. Kentucky's passing offense looked great last week. Will Levis went for 4 touchdowns. I think Kentucky will win. I think they'll win by probably just a possession or so. I think it'll be a pretty close game, but I think they'll win at home.
I'll tell you what I like on a good teaser on this one. If you take Kentucky on a 6-point teaser and pair it with the under in the Illinois-Virginia game, that means that the Illinois-Virginia number would now be 62, and Kentucky would just have to win. And I like that a lot. That's one of my favorite teasers of the day. It sucks because I hate when I get a teaser. One starts at 11 a.m. The other one starts at 7:30. But I really like that as a pretty solid teaser today. Moving on from that, let me see who we have not covered yet. Notre Dame, Toledo. Notre Dame looked pretty good last week. Toledo is a team we all know. Toledo can upset the apple cart. 17 points after a big emotional win on a Sunday night. So it is a short week. And I get it. They're going to be at Notre Dame, but this seems like a Notre Dame type of Notre Damer. What I mean by that is if they win, they're going to barely win. 17 points seems a lot against Toledo, and Notre Dame looked good. Don't get me wrong. Man, this a 2:30 kickoff, short week. It just smells like the Toledo Rockets could go in there and shake things up. Tony, what say you?
No.
At all, that like they have no chance of covering the spread?
I mean, cover the spread maybe. I think Notre Dame's.
Well, that's all we're worried about. I mean,
Yeah,
we're worried about the spread being.
I thought Notre Dame did a really good job of going into that atmosphere, because that place was on fire the other night. I mean, that was as live as we've seen Doak probably in 5-6 years probably. I thought they did a good job of, for the most part, maintaining composure and played well and kind of weathered the storm over there. I think Notre Dame they'll pull away at home. I think they'll cover today too, and then they got a couple big games coming up. Then Purdue, I guess,
they weathered the storm because Norvell left freaking Travis in for way too long. I didn't go after Angelo when he was on here, but we were kind of going back and forth on Twitter that night, and he was defending Jordan Travis like he was his firstborn, and I was like, this guy stinks. And I don't understand why a coach can't smell it, right? He did the same thing with the Blackman last year. Left him in, watch him just sit there and just piss game after game after game away. And I was watching the same with Travis. First time ever in my entire watching career of Florida State football that our quarterback gets hurt. And I was like, now we got a chance. Now we got a chance. And sure enough, he gets the ball and scores 18 unanswered points.
I like Notre Dame to cover.
-17. I'm telling you, this is a Notre Damer, as I like to call.
Tune in live on Peacock.
Yeah, exactly. Is that the only way to get them now?
I think so.
I guess I just won't be watching Peacock or Notre Dame football, and I think my life will be just as rich. Tones, would you take Notre Dame -17?
I'm no Notre Dame fan by any means, but today I would absolutely take them -17. Last week they barely squeaked by, and Notre Dame, obviously Florida State and what Milton did was impressive, and that almost came back and won them the game. But what I like about Notre Dame is, like Tony alluded to, their schedule after this gets a little trickier and tougher throughout the way. Next week they're back-to-back weeks against Big Ten. They got Purdue, Wisconsin, then they play a very good Cincinnati team. Then they're at Virginia Tech. Then they got rivalry USC, UNC. So after this game, it's really tough sledding for Notre Dame. They're due for one of those notorious. I know that they, lay a lot of clunkers against these types of teams usually, but today I think they just blow the spokes off Toledo. And I know Toledo had a big opening week victory against Norfolk State, 49-10, I believe, but I don't see their success replicating against a team like Notre Dame, who, if anything, I think will be more jacked up to play this week. Not to discredit last week's game, but I think Notre Dame expected a little better themselves last week, and I think this week they carry that over and really spank Toledo. I'm thinking a 20-plus point victory for Notre Dame.
I'll tell you another number I like. Toledo's team total is 20. They scored 49 last week. And Notre Dame's defense was okay, but it didn't look like they didn't look like Alabama 2.0 by any stretch of the imagination. Bobby, what say you on the Notre Dame?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blowout as well.
I'm the only one who. All right. I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you alone on this one. I think Cohn had a good game. I think he's going to replicate that again. Probably won't be in the game as long, obviously, because I think it'll be a blowout and he'll be out by about early third quarter. Toledo, they did look good last week, but I don't think they're going to have a chance in this game.
All right. Golden Domers. That's all I'm telling you, man.
I was going to say, one thing we're seeing this weekend, it's the first home game for some of these programs. Like, guys, teams went on the road that don't usually go on the road their first game, like Penn State's one, Notre Dame's another one. There's a few others where – so I think there's some additional juice. You're playing in front of a full house for the first time in a couple of years. So I think that's a factor this weekend too.
I think it's a perfect letdown game. Short week. They've got Purdue next week. They got Purdue next week. That's okay. The cheese will stand alone. But I believe I definitely like the team total over 20. I think they'll score that. If nothing else, if Notre Dame is blowing them out, Toledo likes to go up and down the field. I believe they run a no huddle, if memory serves me correct. And there's no way that they don't hit that 20 mark.
Now you got me wondering who coaches Toledo. So
I don't. The biggest thing I remember about Toledo is they used to be called the Mud Hens years and years ago. I mean, years ago, and they upset Florida in Gainesville. And there was a famous picture in the Florida Times-Union because all the local papers were asking, what is a mud hen? What the F is a mud hen? That kind of thing, joking around because they're about to roll them. Because my dad saved the paper from, I mean, this might've been from the 60s. I don't even remember. But anyways, as they were leaving the swamp before it was called the swamp, there was a big sign in the back of their bus. They pasted up against the window after they shot the Gators in Gainesville and said, did you find out what the F a mud hen was? Anyways, we'll move on from that game. Go around real quick. Tones, game that we haven't talked about yet that you're most excited for today.
Game that we haven't talked about yet that I am personally most excited for today.
Penn State boys, right?
Yeah, obviously Penn State against Ball State, and that's another one where a lot of people look at the spread and it's sitting right around 22, and they're probably thinking, oh, that seems a little too low. I think Penn State's going to blow out Ball State in this one as well and cover with ease after a big win last week. As Tony alluded, a lot of these teams are home for the first time this week. I think Penn State Stadium's going to be rocking.
Huge win for y'all last week, by the way.
Just huge after the last year, after the disappointment season we had last year. Last week was just huge. They came out and Sean Clifford played not the greatest ball, and we still escaped with victory. I mean, Clifford last week did hit the over on his passing yardage total, which was nice. I had it. I think it was 206.5. He ended up with 247. So he did that, but he didn't play an effective ball game. Imagine how good Penn State could look with Sean Clifford playing effective. He had a lot of incompletions last week. And, their ground game wasn't too great last week as well. They only had 18 total carries, and their main back only had 8 of those total carries. That's just not Penn State like. Usually it's more ground and pound. So I'm expecting a big win against Ball State this week. I really love Penn State laying the 22 points. And I think Jahan Dotson and Keandre Lambert-Smith are in for huge games this week. Both had really big games last week, combined for 9 receptions for 173 yards and a touchdown. I think this week Penn State's defense even steps up. Alice Brooks, Arnold Abedeki both had sacks last week. Joey Porter Jr. is on that defense. We all remember Joey Porter from back in the day in the NFL. Now we got Joey Porter Jr. on the Penn State defense.
So there'll be at least 2 or 3 personal foul calls.
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5. You never know. But no, Joey Porter Jr. does look like a hell of a ball player. Last week was really the first week where he bursted onto the scene. And then Jaquan Brisker is one of their up-and-coming defenders as well. He had a turnover last week. So I'd be surprised if Ball State gets more than 2 touchdowns in this one, more than 14 points in this one. I think Penn State, I'm looking forward to this game. Probably not many people besides Penn State fans are looking forward to this game. But like I said, if you guys don't have anything else to watch for the 2 o'clock slate, you could tune into this one if you're trying to bet the game and hope for a Penn State victory.
I'm only concerned about it because it's a sandwich game, and next week against Auburn in a Happy Valley, it's going to be a whiteout game, assuming they haven't cancel cultured that yet. That's going to be a huge game, and that would be my only concern. And so I'm staying away from any. I don't like sandwich games of college football because college kids still play for the emotion of it, except for the guys who get really sweet NIL deals. Then they just don't play at all. Ukulele. But Bobby, what's a game that you're really excited about?
There's a couple I'm looking forward to watching.
You dare say Florida and South Florida. I'm almost one that everyone's going to want to watch.
Look, I'm only going to say that because I want to see more Anthony Richardson snaps. I love what I saw from him last week, and I want to see the passing offense be a little bit more consistent. Look, I love watching Anthony Richardson, and watching him play it felt special last week. I want to see more of it. And I want to see the defense replicate what they did last week. And then the MTSU Virginia Tech game. I am an MTSU student, so I want to see an upset. I'm not expecting anything, but
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna keep an eye on it.
I'm really hoping for an upset. That'd be fun. We had a bet. I'm in a media and sports class, and My professor, he didn't say if they won he'd do something, but he said if they put up 50 on Virginia Tech that he'd shave his head in class.
Let me ask you this, Bobby.
That would be fun.
Are you familiar with where your head coach played quarterback in college?
Rick Stockstill? No.
He played not only at Florida State, he played for the great Bobby Bowden. So that's another reason why I always pull for him. And every time that job comes open, they're like, Stockstill's coming to FSU. I'm like, I think he's cool, man. I think he realizes, as long as he doesn't crap the bed 3 years in a row, he's got a job. Tony, what's the one big game that you're looking forward to?
I think Stockstill's from Fernandina Beach, I think, too.
I believe so, too, yeah.
We've hit them all. I want to see UAB Georgia. I want to see, who plays quarterback for Georgia today. And if it's Carson Beck, I want to see how the local kid does. It's Georgia, so hopefully he plays like crap. I think UAB under the radar is pretty good. And I guess we've hit all the big games, really, other than there's two in the Pac-10, Utah and BYU. That's out of conference, obviously, for that game. But Stanford's Southern Cal, but the odds of me being up that late, at least past halftime of those games, is probably slim to none. But Stanford Cal is probably going to be a pretty good game.
I'll tell you the one I'm most interested about as far as the late game, because I don't think they're going to cover, and it's ridiculous. Vanderbilt's getting 7 at Colorado State, and I don't think they're going to cover. I think Vanderbilt is just terrible, and they've gotten even worse somehow. So that's one. Outside of that, the game that I'm probably most excited to see as far as see what this team actually looks like is probably the Appalachian State Miami game, because look, if Miami doesn't blow them out, man, they're going to start calling for Diaz's head. I think they will win, but look, if they don't blow them out, if they win by 4 or it's a lucky play gets them the W, people are going to start wondering, is this the guy? All right, before we walk out of here, we're going to do our 3 picks against the spread. And Tones, I will start with you. What are your 3 picks against the spread that you like today?
3 picks against the spread that I like today. I do, Maryland Howard. Maryland is dropping 47.5 points today, and Howard lost by 24 to Rice last week. Obviously, Maryland now has Tua's brother, and having one of those guys in college is never a bad thing. I like Maryland dropping that many points today, 47.5 points today. I do think Maryland covers against a lowly whittled Howard team who lost by 24 points to a bad Rice team last week.
What time is that game?
I think it does occur at night. I want to say 6 o'clock, maybe.
I can't even find it on the board. I don't even know if that's being Vegas even.
It's on my betting app in Bet Rivers.
I will grab it and go, because I think a lot of them have taken them off.
Yeah, I'm a grabbing before it's too late. That game is a 6:30 kickoff, so I do like Maryland minus 47.5, and Tua's brother Taulaya, however you pronounce it, he played a hell of a game last week. I mean, Maryland beat West Virginia in a very good battle. I expect replication this week against
he's the brother of the kid for the Dolphins.
Yep, exactly. His first name is tricky as well, though. That's what I was trying to spit out there. But
I'm sure they've come up with the nickname by now. It's just like I don't even know if Tua's real name is Tua. It's probably like this long.
Yeah, I think it is really expanded really long. I think Tua.
It reminds me of my buddy's first wife. We called her Dow, D-O-W. Her original name, she showed me on the ID one time. It's like this long on the ID. It's like, good Lord, how do you pronounce it? She goes, I can't even pronounce it. I call it Dow. I was like, you can't pronounce your own name. Her parents were from overseas, but I was like, wow. Every time I see Tua, that's what I think of.
Hey, yep. Everyone knows a guy who's had a name that's, been expanded or shrunk like that. I'm sticking with all Big Ten here, by the way. I'm bringing all these Big Ten spreads out and about right now. My second game I'm looking at is one I talked about already. I do like Penn State laying the 22. They had a big road win against Wisconsin last week. Stadium will be rocking this week, I think. I just don't see this being a close game at all, and I already abbreviated why. And then the third game I'm going with is a New York battle. I'm going with Rutgers dropping 2 points at Syracuse, even though Rutgers is technically on the road. They're staying in the state of New York. They looked really good last week, led by a great college football head coach. He wasn't a good NFL head coach, but Greg Schiano is actually a really good head coach in the college football ranks, and he helped prove that last week. They had a big blowout win last week against Temple. They almost put up 70 points overall, and I love Rutgers laying a couple points here. I think Rutgers is going to win by double digits today, and those are my 3 Big Ten games to keep an eye on with the spreads.
All right. Tony, what say you? You got a couple
Give me
picks?
Florida to cover.
Okay.
FAU to cover. And I just had it. Whoever the heck is playing Minnesota. Miami of Ohio to cover against Minnesota. I just think Minnesota losing that running back, I think that's tough for them, and a little bit of letdown after losing to Ohio State at home. So I think they're just kind of ripe dirt for having a closer game against Miami of Ohio than maybe people think.
And what say you, Bobby?
I got Vandy and Colorado State, like you mentioned earlier. I think Colorado State's outright going to win that game. I think it's going to be by a pretty wide margin. I don't like Vanderbilt at all. They're not a good football team. We'll leave it at that, really. I think Appalachian State's going to keep it close against Miami. I think they're going to probably win or lose by 3 or 4 points, and I think they'll cover that spread. And then Morgan State versus Tulane. Tulane's expected to win big by 47.5 points. I think they'll win by a pretty wide margin, but ultimately I think Tulane's close game against Oklahoma was more of just a product of Oklahoma playing down to their opponents a little bit more. And I think Morgan State's going to not lose by that much, at least.
All right. I'm going to go with, I already said it before, I like Illinois plus the 10.5. I really think that they're going to cover. And I also like the other game that I mentioned earlier, Iowa State, Iowa. I like the over in that, which is sitting at 46. And then the other game that I'm really leaning towards, and I might as well go ahead and pick it since I talked about it earlier. I like Pittsburgh to cover. I like them more on the money line, but since we don't do that, I'm going to go. I had Pittsburgh on the money line when it was much lower, because normally we don't do money lines if it's above minus 150. And earlier this month, I took Pittsburgh on the money line when they were at 135. Now it's up to 175, but I'll go ahead and take Pittsburgh minus the 4. What's the one big thing that's going to happen today as you walk us off today, Mr. Tones Ariola?
One big thing that's going to happen today is people are going to be saying what happened to Ohio State, whether Oregon ends up pulling the victory or whether they lose in an overtime thriller. I think Oregon wins this ball game today, and after Ohio State, barely snuck by with a week 1 victory, I think Ohio State fans are going to have more questions than answers. Their young quarterback didn't look great at times last week. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against a tougher Oregon opponent. And people are sleeping on the Pac this year. Not that the Pac is a great football conference usually, but this year they do have a couple good teams, and that starts at Oregon, and then I think UCLA is good. So I would watch out for Oregon. I think people are going to be talking about what's going on with Ohio State as we leave today.
All right. And Bobby, what's the one big thing that is going to happen today as you walk it off?
I think Iowa State, I think they're going to prove to be as good of a team as they are. I think Purdy's going to have a pretty solid game. I think they'll beat Iowa. It'll be a fun game to watch, but I think the better team will come up on top here.
And Tony, what say you on the one big thing?
I think for I don't know if it's a big thing, but I think Mackenzie Milton seals his job as the starting quarterback for FSU tonight.
God, he better.
Mm-hmm.
I would. You guys were touching on this. I would start Travis tonight and let Milton come in pretty early in the game. But Milton's your quarterback for the rest of the year.
Not unless you want the cops called at my house tonight. He better not start the game.
That's a possibility anyway.
First time ever, I'll be sitting here by myself, and there'll be a domestic violence call on myself from myself.
I thought you meant you're going to burn it down. All right, well,
or that. I can't deal with it. I don't want to watch that boring ass version of football where we're going 7 yards. You know, it was real innovative in the early 80s when they're going the West Coast style 7 yards across. But it's different. You got Jerry Rice catching the ball. That's the most boring. Only thing worse than that is that stupid RPO. I hate the RPO, but I can live with that more than a guy who can only. A guy who, when it's 3rd and long, the go-to is let's throw a screen pass. Let's see if that'll work. I'd rather lose by 30 than to watch that junk again. My one big thing today. Well, a couple have already been taken, but I'll go ahead and kind of piggyback off of what Tony said earlier. I think NC State's going to prove to everybody that they're a pretty darn good football team. Yeah. They're going to go into Mississippi State in the middle of all those cowbells, and they are going to start looking like a team that people are going to have to worry about in that division. They're not playing anyone worth a hoot today, but I'm very excited to see what Boston College looks like when they actually go up against someone really good. Boston College, NC State, I don't know when that game is this year, where it is this year, but that should be an absolute light show, and there will be NFL scouts galore at that game. But NC State goes in and rips the cowbell out, and eventually they're going to start saying, did we hire the right dude here? I mean, Ole Miss goes out and gets Lane Kiffin, and we get this schmuck that just likes to throw one-liners out.
Yeah, he's funny in press conferences, though.
He's real funny. I love him. He's just not a very good coach. Plus, I don't know if he'll ever be a good coach at Mississippi State. Who the hell wants to go to Mississippi State? Yeah. Like, intentionally. All right, we'll see y'all next week on the Dixie Football Nation. We'll be here tomorrow for 10 a.m. Eastern for the handicappers, as we'll be talking the lines, fantasy football. Oh, my God, if you've got Gus Edwards, it's time to start freaking out. We'll talk all that tomorrow morning. Go Noles, and everyone, good luck with your team, except you Gator fans out there.
Enjoy. Take care.
Take care, guys.